Hi guys! Today I'm going to do a time lapse of this small 4x4-inch Christmas painting that will go on my tiered tray when I start my Christmas decorating after Thanksgiving. While you watch this time lapse, I'm going to be starting a discussion about minimalism. So sit back, watch me paint, and then let me know your thoughts about minimalism in the comments. Here we go. Before we get into this, I'll state flat out that I don't think I'm a minimalist. I don't like clutter, and since I live in a studio apartment, it doesn't take much for things to look cluttered. I'm also living on a fixed income, so between my limited space and limited income, not accumulating things makes sense. However, if I had more space and more discretionary income, I know full well that I would have stuff. Especially as we're entering into the holidays, I'm reminded of all the decorations I had when I owned my home. I would have 2 Christmas trees, and every single room would be decorated for the holidays. I had collections as well. I collected Santas and Department 56 lighted houses, and I would create displays every Christmas. So yes, given the space and money, I would definitely not be a minimalist. I was having a discussion with friends recently about minimalism, what it is, what it isn't, and we never really agreed on what it is. If you ask 100 people what minimalism is to them, you'll get a lot of different answers. You may hear someone declare they are a minimalist, but then you see them filling their closet with clothing and buying single-use gadgets, and you might think to yourself, no way you are a minimalist. I decided to do a little reading and research to drill down and understand what minimalism really is. Also, can a person like myself, who lives on a fixed income and in a small space, be considered a minimalist by choice, or are they a minimalist by circumstance? Basically, are you a minimalist or are you broke? Minimalism began as an art movement after World War II and became a design aesthetic in the 60s and 70s. Today, some people still think of minimalism as a design aesthetic. They create spaces with a typically neutral color scheme and clean lines. Making the switch to a minimalist aesthetic is also considered something that's geared towards those with high incomes who can afford it. For example, if you want a minimalist aesthetic in your kitchen, your appliances need to match. I'm sure most of you have seen the ASMR videos of people organizing their pantries and refrigerator by using matched storage containers. Those can get pricey. Or if they have a perfectly comfortable sectional in the living room, but the lines aren't clean, it has to be replaced. Aesthetic minimalism can be very expensive. Okay. So I've got my base coat down, and my next step is going to be going ahead and sketching out the pattern and transferring it on here. The next clip you will see will already have the outline of what it is that I'm going to do on the canvas, and then we'll go from there. Okay, here we go. I've turned the light off so we don't get too much reflection, but as you can see, there is a basic outline on here in white. Have a little teacup or coffee cup, a little gingerbread man outlined, some holly leaves outlined, some peppermint sticks, and there'll be some other greenery. So this is just a basic outline, and it'll make sense as I start working on it. And the colors that I've used, I use this metallic black. You can't really tell that it's metallic, but it does give a little bit of a sheen. I usually just use Deco Art paint, but I had this one. Then asphaltum is something that I use to create shadows. And this is the cocoa, which I'll be using for the gingerbread man. Light avocado and Hauser light green for the greenery. The country red for the berries, and the cup. The cup is going to be red and black. That's where I'm going to be pulling in the buffalo plaid. And then this one, this neon that I use, Believe it or not, it makes a very nice highlight on berries. It looks like it's very strong, but with that just a little bit, it works. And then white for a couple of things on here. So, well, we have peppermint stick, so they have to be red and white, right? Okay, so I'm just going to start filling this in with the basic colors, and then we'll move on from there. But there's another side to minimalism that has nothing to do with design and everything to do with lifestyle. It is a lifestyle that emphasizes simplicity and being intentional about material possessions. You make a conscious choice to only have what is necessary and meaningful to you. Decluttering is a part of that because proponents of minimalism say that decluttering your physical space also helps declutter your mind. But this idea of keeping only what is useful and meaningful to you can be a slippery slope. If you want to jump on the minimalism bandwagon and insist you are a minimalist, you can use the whole idea of being intentional as an excuse. If you buy new shirts at Walmart every time you're in the store, you could say that having a closet full of clothes is meaningful to you and you're being intentional in keeping those items. Using my example of all the holiday decor I used to have, I could have argued that all of it had meaning for me and each purchase I made was intentional, and therefore I'm still a minimalist. In an effort to hold on to stuff, you can argue loudly that it has meaning to you. And who could argue with you? It's subjective, right? So here's the definition of minimalism that I like. It says that you are intentional about what you keep because you want a more fulfilling life defined by prioritizing experiences, relationships, and personal growth over things. So in a sense, it is about money. Unless you have more money than you can spend in your lifetime, you make the decision to use your discretionary spending on a fun experience for yourself, time with those you love, or learning a new hobby instead of buying more stuff. Let's say you're a person who doesn't struggle financially. You can choose both the stuff and the experiences, but you choose to have fewer possessions and focus more on life experiences and relationships. If you are very intentional about the material possessions you bring into your life, then you would be a minimalist. So then it would be a voluntary choice, right? But what about someone like me who lives on a fixed income? First, you have to be focused on meeting your basic needs. And if you only have enough to meet your basic needs, then you could be said to be a minimalist because you don't have the means to buy stuff. If minimalism is intentionally choosing experiences over material possessions, and you don't have that choice because you're just trying to meet your basic needs, can you say you're a minimalist? I read stories about people who stated that in their past, they struggled financially and they couldn't afford a lot. They learned how to make sure that if they spent money on something, it was going to be useful. They wouldn't, for example, buy a special tool to slice an avocado. You use a knife because it has multiple uses. If you get a bed frame with storage underneath, it's not because you're trying for a certain aesthetic, it's because your budget requires that you live in a compact space and that bed frame gives you much needed storage space. So a person who once had to live this way learned that every dollar and every penny counted. You couldn't use it up being a consumer. They needed to save it to create a better life. But along the way, they learned the wonderful benefit that came from being intentional with their spending. They went from being a minimalist by circumstance to a minimalist by choice. To me, frugality, which I think is just another way of saying being intentional with your money, and minimalism go hand in hand. Being a minimalist on a fixed income also looks different when it comes to decluttering. A minimalist who has a lot of discretionary spending in their budget would get rid of duplicates. For example, duplicate can openers or potato peelers or fans. But someone on a low income might keep the duplicate because if the one they use breaks, the cost of replacing it would impact their bottom line. Choosing to live with fewer possessions is much easier for someone who knows they can replace them easily. Being poor is about having a low income. Being a minimalist is about questioning personal consumption habits and navigating through your true needs and wants. And if you have even a little bit of discretionary income, you have to make the decision of, for example, whether you want to spend it on a nice piece of clothing or a trip to a local museum. There is some calm and peace that is gained from living with purpose, in knowing that each intentional purchase is essential to your well-being. That happens whether you are rich or poor. And I think this kind of intentional living changes with you over time. What you value at each point in your life will be different. I will still say I'm not a minimalist, but I think having to be very intentional with my money out of necessity has taught me a lesson that would stick with me even if I won the lottery tomorrow. I've learned that experiences and personal growth are far more valuable than a bunch of stuff, and I will always carry that with me. And that ends my discussion about minimalism. Let me know in the comments what you think minimalism is and whether you think you're a minimalist. For the rest of the art time lapse, I'll let you enjoy it with a little bit of background music. Thanks for watching. Okay, so that's the basics for now. I'm going to start filling in the details. If you probably saw that I use a gel pen to try and clean up the edges a little bit. I'll do some more of that later after I add some of the details in there. And of course, those holly leaves, they're testing me. My hand's not as steady as it used to be once upon a time. So yeah, we'll figure it out. I'm going to add the details now. Okay, guys, I'm going to call this done. I decided not to do the buffalo plaid on the bottom. That would have been easier to do if it had been a larger piece, but as small as it is, that was going to be a little bit too difficult for me to manage. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the actual discussion that went along with it, and hope you'll tune in for the next one. Have a great night. Take care. Be safe. Bye.
Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas, everyone!